If you're in search of some more insight and capability out of your tuner than just changing your tire size or checking a check engine light, this Edge Evolution CTS3 tuner will be a great addition to your 2011 through 2014 JK Wrangler. Now this will be good for you if you're looking for an all-in-one tuner where you can view, monitor, and change parameters to fit your build's needs, whether you're in search of some better street performance for your Jeep now that you've added larger wheels and tires or re-geared, or you're looking for specific tuning for off-road use. It's also a great tool to monitor your gauges and temps while you're off-road or on longer trips, especially in an older Wrangler, to make sure that everything is in working order, in addition to a laundry list of other features that we'll get into in just a second. Like I said, this device is packed with a variety of different features and modes, but one of my favorite features is that this is so accessible because of the huge screen and the ability to mount it up on your dash to read your Jeep's information in real time. Now with the monitoring, you can also data log. You can use this as a diag tool to read and clear trouble codes, or a diagnostic tool. You can also test your performance, and most importantly, you'll have the ability to tune your Wrangler with pre-configured tunes specifically for your Jeep to increase your performance on the dirt or pavement. This also has calibration adjustments for gear ratio, tire size, transmission tuning, stop-start deactivation, and options for your TPMS sensors. Now you can also customize the look, the gauges, and even link up your auxiliary switches to control everything through this little device. Now this kit will consist of the screen, or the device itself, which is approximately 5 inches diagonally and will be very easy to read with a full 5-color display, a user-friendly and responsive screen, easy to use menus, and very informative graphics. Now it's also going to have a spot on the back to attach the dash mount here that is fairly low profile, and this also has a large suction cup on the back, so you can place it wherever you'd like on the windshield and customize your setup to your build. Now the device will also be Wi-Fi updatable and will come with a micro USB to USB wiring harness to plug it into your computer if you would like to. That way you can see all of your stored information as far as data logging is concerned, and more on the software. Now the best part about this system is that you won't have to do any wiring or splitting of factory connections, because this will read all of the data and import all the data through the OBD2 port, making it very easy to install and use on a daily basis. This tuner is about $700 and is one of the more expensive choices for a tuner, but well worth it considering what you're getting. You're definitely getting what you pay for the pre-configured tunes, data monitoring, and a huge screen, which is very clear and easy to use that won't leave you guessing. Now again, some choices may not offer all of these features in one. They may only do some calibration or maybe more of a handheld style tuner. So if you're invested in your Jeep's information and performance, this is a great option to consider. Install will be a 1 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter and will only take you about 15 minutes to get this plugged in and in place. I would recommend to make sure that the device is up to date with the most recent firmware before you're installing it, to make sure you're getting the most out of this system. However, speaking of the install, one of our customers here has put this on their JK and is going to walk you through what that process looks like step by step. So that's going to wrap it up for me. Let's go ahead and get into it.
Okay, so now we will be going over what tools are required to install the Edge CTS3. There really are no tools that are specific for this install, but these may be helpful to you. This is a plastic tab pry tool removal tool, which you can use to pry the side access panel with. You could also use a flathead screwdriver. My preferred tool will be a plastic pry tool, as it won't really scuff or damage the plastic panel pieces. Then you'll need some kind of small snippers or scissors to clip the excess off of the zip ties that we will use to clean up our wiring.
So here we are out with the Jeep. We're getting ready to install the Edge CTS3 monitor and tuner. Right here on this side panel, you can see that this panel was already cut for a cable installation. There will be no cutting required to run this cable. What we're going to do is take this plastic pry tool and pry right here to remove this side access panel. As you can see, there are just some snap tabs that clip in all along this, so slight pressure is needed, but the removal is very quick and simple. And as you can see, this gives us access to run our cable all along here. When you set that off to the side, we won't really need this anymore. The screwdrivers or the removal tool would also work here. However, I find that the plastic pry tool is easier on the harder plastics, so you don't scratch or scuff anything. So the next thing we'll do is loosen this little tie here and get ready to route our cable. So our port is going to be right down here. This can only fit on one way, so as you can see, it's kind of a trapezoid shape, so it'll just plug in right here, just like so. And then again, this is for adding other devices sold by Edge products. You can add other monitors and plug it in right here. And then we're just going to run this cable along the inside of this, kind of keeping in mind where other things are. So there's a little more room right there, so I'm probably gonna leave that guy right there. And then we want our monitor to end up right here on the dash. So I'm just gonna route this cable right through here, and then we'll probably won't need all of this. So I'm just going to leave enough for the monitor at the top, and then all of this here we will need to zip tie. At this point, we're going to go ahead and attach the device itself to the included mount. It's going to be just located on the back of the device here. We're going to take off this sticker, and then these tabs will interface with the mount right here, and then you'll just push upwards. So you'll hear an audible and tactile snap. And then on the back of the device mount, there is this rotating assembly, and there's a screw here, and you can tighten this down and it will lock this into a fixed position that you choose. So if we want it like this on the dash, we'll just tighten it up, and then it'll hold it rigid. And if we want to adjust it, we can just loosen this and adjust this however we would like on the windshield. And so now we will move to positioning the device on the windshield to our desired position. So we'll begin this step by removing this protector here, as well as using the included alcohol wipe to wipe down the suction cup surface and our window surface for a clean interface. And then we will also position it, and once we have it positioned, we will press it against the windshield and trip this lever, and that will apply the suction force and keep it in position on the dash. At that point, I will take this cable and attach it to this port right here, and we will have power to our device. At that point, the device screen will likely do a boot up process, and we will be able to take a look at that as well. I'm going to remove the sticker. Comes on there. And then I'm going to use my alcohol wipe that is included. I'll give this a little clean. And then also up here, I'm going to mount mine up here on the lower windshield just above the dash. You could also put it up higher. You could also put it over in the middle. It just depends on what part of the windshield you would like it to be positioned in. So I'm going to wipe down this area here. And give that a second to dry. So again, we want this lever to be flipped open right now, and once we press it against the windshield, then we will lock it into position. So I'm actually going to rotate this. No, I think I like it better like that. I'm going to maybe rotate it to the side. Kind of have to find which way the mount works best for your vehicle. I want mine to be directly in the corner, so I'm going to press it there, and then I'm going to press it firmly against the windshield and flip that lever, and now it is very solidly attached to the windshield. That's not going to go anywhere, and I have tested this in other vehicles as well. These mounts do work very well. So now we have this in position, but this is still loose. We can adjust the tightness, like I said earlier, by tightening this little screw on the backside. So I'll leave it loose for now as we can attach our cabling. So our cable should simply, I can just adjust this length as well. So I'm leaving this panel exposed for now. This cable will attach right in here. And as we can see, the screen is starting to power on. I'm just gonna get myself some more cable again. I want to have enough cable so that it tucks nicely into the dash here and allows us some adjustment in our monitor display, so we can turn it left or right without it pinching or doing anything like that. So I'm going to make sure that looks like it's sitting nicely. So now at this point I'm going to tighten up the display, and you can just finger tighten this screw back here. It's plastic, you don't want to break it, and it will be very rigid and work well. So now that we have the monitor plugged in, which we're going to simulate once more, the device will power on and we'll go through the setup process. At this point, we can remove our touchscreen protector that came with the device, or you could leave it on if you would like. And now we have the home screen, which has tuning options. You can run performance tests with your vehicle. You can go into settings. This is the screen you would go to if you were going to plug in those other Edge products that we talked about. You can run diagnostics on your vehicle, and you can monitor the gauges, which is what most people will probably be primarily using this for. So as this is monitoring your vehicle, you may have to do some toggling the key on and off for it to sync with your vehicle. That's fairly common amongst these monitors and tuning devices. So now we've been prompted to turn the ignition on, but not into run. So just 2 clicks. Press the screen to continue. So now we have the tutorial page. So Here it's telling us basically what all of these buttons do and how to activate them. Swipe down from the top of any gauge screen to access customization and data log functions. Swipe up from the bottom of the screen to access navigation menu throughout the device. So here it's essentially telling you what all of these buttons do. From left to right, we have press here to change the wallpaper or background of the device. Press here to change the theme colors of your gauges. Press here to select and edit the gauge layout. Press here if you have external camera. So as I said, you can also tie in a camera to this power cable. Press here to begin recording vehicle data, and press here for help. So again, we have more options. The little house icon is for the home menu. This is for vehicle tuning, diagnostics. We have the performance testing, expandable EAS accessory stuff. Press here to modify the vehicle settings, and press here for help. And then it says swipe left or right to view up to 5 gauge screens in your layout. Double tap to change each individual, they call them PIDs, PID, and then you can edit the colors, the values, and the warnings. So for each individual thing that you're monitoring, you can edit how that looks on your screen, and you can have 5 screens of different layouts. And then you can also have additional toggles for switches. So, you know, here example is light bar, and you can have different types of toggles. So here it says keep this tutorial or disable tutorial. If you hit keep this tutorial, every time you power the device and do modifications to the individual gauges, the tutorial will come back up. So at this point, I'm going to hit disable tutorial. Okay, so here is my home screen with the gauges that I have laid out. So in the middle, I have the corrected speed, as I have larger than stock tires on this vehicle. You can show the gear that you're in. I have engine load, the fuel in the level in the vehicle, the engine coolant temperature, the engine speed, the ambient air temperature, battery level, transmission fluid temperature, and the intake air temperature. So for example, as we learned in the tutorial, we can swipe down from the top, and then now we have settings for the theme, the layouts, the wallpaper, all those things. We can swipe up from the bottom, and that'll give us all of these other options. And then we can swipe across, and that'll get us to these different screens. So this one is more of like an off-road screen where we have the pitch and roll of the vehicle. We have the G meter, so how many G's of force are on your vehicle. I also have these other temperatures and speed across the top. And I have a third screen as well. I swipe to it. This shows some of the same gauges, just in a different layout. So you can have 5 of these screens total, so it's very customizable. We'll go back to the first screen, and I'll show you how to edit one of these PIDs or PIDs. If you simply double tap into these, now we will see the options that we have. So that we have the basic PIDs, and there's a whole long list of these that you can swipe through and select which one you want. You can also go to this tab where it says Advanced PIDs, and it will read your vehicle's information and see if there's any other options that you can access. If you want to change the layout, how these look, you would go right here, and then here you can customize the actual value that these are reading, such as the minimum and maximum. There's also, you can change how many little LED bars are shown here. And then you can also change the color as well. You can also set alerts for each of these, such as, you know, this one is reading speed, so I could set like a maximum speed alert, things of that nature. You can also change the units down here. And if you save changes, you want to do that there, you can go back and it'll load your changes. So now that we have powered on our device, everything seems to be working well with the vehicle. We have managed our cable and we have zip tied the excess cable, tucked it away where it won't interfere with anything else. And we have everything plugged in and working. I'm going to cut off this excess zip tie and then attach our side panel here, and the installation will be complete. There are probably hundreds of customizable options that we could go through, but that will be kind of each person's own prerogative to see how they would like this customized, the colors, the display, and then which PIDs you would actually be using on a day-to-day basis. So we'll go ahead and finish this install video right now. So for this, I'm going to use these little snippers. You could also just use scissors or a good pocket knife as well. Cut off that piece. And then really all we will need to do here is match up these little plastic tabs to where the slots are. You just kind of want to be conscious that you don't misalign these. As they're plastic, they would probably be pretty easy to break off. So we'll just be kind of mindful of that. I'm gonna start this by kind of tucking in this side edge. And then starting from the bottom is what seems to be the easiest for me. Not too difficult. You just want to make sure you have all your cables ran in the right spots. You know, this had a little hole drilled for this cable, so that was giving me a little bit of trouble. That was for some auxiliary lights. But as you can see, the cable for the monitor itself actually tucks really nicely into this existing gap. I didn't have to cut anything there. And this is a cable for something else, so don't mind that. But everything for the monitor itself tucks in really cleanly, and then down here underneath, you really can't see the cable at all. So that looks pretty nice. It's fairly simple and straightforward install. So now we're going to look at how to program the Jeep using your Edge monitor. So the first thing I'm going to do is take my key and turn the vehicle to the run position. So we'll see all the lights come on. If the monitor does not power on right away, you should simply be able to tap it. And the monitor will turn on. So what we're going to want to do is, this is the default screen. We're going to go swipe up from the bottom, and here we have our menu. So I'm going to want to go to tuning. So here we have tune vehicle, restore vehicle, and quick adjust. So I'm going to want to choose tune vehicle. As you can see right now, we have multiple options. We have economy, drive, jammer, CAI tune, and performance. If I scroll down, we have extreme, perf crawl, modify stock tune, and skip. So right now I am in the drive tune. We're going to go ahead and switch to economy. And then we're just going to follow the instructions prompted to us by the monitor. Would you like to install the tune as is, or would you like to customize the tune by modifying the adjustable parameters? So you can customize each tune. I would recommend just using the tunes as they come preloaded. If you're more of an expert on tuning, then you could go ahead and customize the parameters, but I'm just going to run the tune as it comes from the factory. I'm going to hit install. So we have tunes selected, and then you have the adjustable parameters. I have not done any of those parameters, so I'm going to go ahead and hit accept and install. So as you can see, we're going to get some lights on the dash. We may get some warnings or beeps from the car as it's in the tuning process. This will go away and all the lights will be cleared, and all the codes, there are no codes, but those would be cleared as well. As you can see, it has to run through the program and talk to the computer that's in the vehicle. We also may have to cycle the key off and on several times through this process. And in the instruction manual, it says this process may take up to, maybe 10 to 20 minutes to actually go through the complete tuning cycle. So now we have been prompted, turn the ignition off and then press continue. So we're going to turn the ignition off and then press continue. Turn the ignition to run and then press continue. I usually try to give it just a second before immediately turning the key and pressing the button at the same time. So I like to wait a second for the computer to load, then turn the key, wait another second, and then press continue. I find that this way I'm not trying to overload the computer with too many turns and button presses at the same time. Turn the key, press continue. So now we say your vehicle has been successfully tuned. Press continue to return to the main menu. So now it has brought us back to our main screen with all of our gauges. As you can see, right now there is a check engine light, but that's just because I have the vehicle in the run position and not fully turned on. If I turn on the vehicle, that will go away and everything will work just as normal. I can go ahead and test that. So now the vehicle is on, and you can see all of our codes have gone away and everything is reading as it should on the monitor. We have our RPMs, fuel level, the battery, everything's reading correctly. We can test it by turning it off, removing the key. So the power will be cut to the monitor. We can cycle the key again. We can turn on our monitor. And if we go back to the tuning menu, so swipe up from the bottom, I'm going to go back to tuning. And if I hit tune vehicle, and now we can see we are in the economy tune where before we were in the drive tune. So it's a very simple process. For all these tunes, you would just select the one you want. You can add the adjustable parameters on top of the base tune file. I would not recommend that again, but you can do that if you would like. And then you simply follow the instructions by cycling the key on and off several times. And again, this video took about 5 minutes, but it could take 10 to 15 minutes. I believe the instructions say even maybe up to 20 minutes depending on your vehicle. But It's not a very complicated process, so hopefully this helps. Another thing to note while we're looking at the tune files that are preloaded is if you click on the information icon here, right next to economy you have information. This level is tuned for better fuel mileage. 87 octane gas is required. So some of these have a specific requirement for the fuel that you want to run with the tune file. So again, for drive, you would click on it and you would see which type of fuel is required. So it's helpful to know that because maybe you don't want to pay for the higher octane gas, which, for example, the performance tune, it says 91 octane fuel is required. So that's something to know, that if you're going to want to run the performance or extreme tunes, you're going to want to fill your tank with that fuel, which could be more expensive depending on where you live. For example, the Crawl. This Crawl tune is designed for stock and mildly modified vehicles with special emphasis on low end throttle torque. So this one, would be more useful when you're on a trail or doing some off-roading and you need a specific crawl performance out of your vehicle. So for myself personally, I'm going to run the economy and the drive tune so that I can run 87 octane fuel, whereas a lot of these other ones specify 91 octane fuel. So that's something to keep in mind while you're looking at which tunes would work best for your vehicle and your application.
So that wraps it up for my review and the install of the Edge Evolution CTS3 tuner fitting all 2011 through 2014 JK Wranglers. And you can find this kit right here at extremeterrain.com.